Hello, hello, friends. How are you? Happy Wednesday. You guys, I'm excited. Today's been off to a good start for me. I don't know about everybody else, but I'm having a good day. So I hope you are too. If you are new here, welcome. This is Crypto News with Julie Kennis. I'm your host, Julie Kennis, and this show is powered by the Gokhstein News Network. That is right. That is right. So I am pushing through to YouTube and X. If you are new here, go over to my YouTube if you can. Smash the subscribe. I'm trying to hit 1,000 subscribers. Hello to my chat. I've got Jesse, Dejan, Brian, John Legend, The Legend, and Chipper. Hello. Welcome, welcome. Yes, Powell says he needs more data. He says the job market and tariffs are contingent, or what are driving this. So basically, no news. No news. I kind of didn't expect a rate change today, though. But you guys, go ahead and tweet the show out if you can. We'll get some more people in the room. Thanks for being here. I have a special guest. I do. I have a special guest. So let's welcome to the show our good friend, Deep in Connection. Bradley is here. Hello, welcome back.
Thank you. I always love the intro video you set up.
Oh my gosh,
awesome.
so fun. So, how have you been? I have not talked to you really since Vegas.
It's been a while. I've been busy. I've been super busy working with some new project founders, covering a lot of projects that the token launches haven't happened yet. So, always excited to get on the front end of that. And then obviously, no shortage of stuff going on in the news between geopolitical tensions and Jerome Powell. Watched his speech earlier today following the FOMC meeting.
Right. Yep. So. Me too. Same. I did you expect them to change rates today? I think most people didn't.
No, I mean, there's like a 99% chance of them not being changed according to Polymarket. So no, I wasn't expecting it. I think he did say something interesting though, that as of right now, they're expecting 2 rate cuts or 50 basis points by the end of the year. So that was one of the takeaways. Mm-hmm. And looking at the schedule, there's 8 meetings a year. There's been 4 now. Right. So that would mean that, there should be
that's some pretty good movement towards the end of the year, right?
Yeah. And that's what we saw last year. We saw a full point between September, October, December meetings. So I think we could see something similar potentially.
Yes. He actually had talked about the job markets and tariffs, and I actually had a job interview today. Some people actually reached out to me to see how my job interview went, and it went really well. You guys, it was so funny. I have to tell you before we dive into the show, it's the only job interview I actually cried after it was over. And yeah, I know. I've never cried after a job interview, but the lady I was interviewing with, I had worked with her before in the past, but I couldn't recall sort of the timeline in which I worked with her because there was a lot happening at the solar company at the time. And so anyway, she mentioned a name who was like my mentor and a gentleman who I worked with who really gave me control of the O&M solar department at Calcom Solar. And so, yeah, when she mentioned his name, like it immediately like, oh my gosh, it hit me in the feels. Cause I was like, I already kind of felt like this job was kind of right for me because it's doing PR in media. It's a really great opportunity. And I know the lady, I've known her for a while, who runs the business. And so, but I didn't know I was going to know the person I was interviewing with first, and then didn't expect her to mention a name, a blast from the past. So I hung up the interview and it was kind of like, happy tears. Very felt like a very special moment. And so yeah, I was like, I don't think I've ever cried at the end of a job interview before.
I was gonna ask, I was like, are happy tears or sad tears? I'm glad it was happy tears.
Give me a job. I need money. The markets are nuking. But no, I mean, I feel like the markets can go south right now, as far as I'm concerned. I want to buy some cheap Bitcoin. I'm actually surprised that things haven't gone a little lower. What do you think? Are
Yeah,
you scared? Do you think we're going to dip below 100?
a lot of it's funny. A lot of people are calling for it. I feel like when people call for it, it doesn't happen.
Mm.
You know, the Bitcoin has been very different from the altcoins. I think we're seeing with the institutional investment, with countries investing, there's a lot more compared to last market cycle and cycles prior. I think there's a lot more long term invested minded people that
Hmm.
are looking at, hey, I want to get like a 0.5%, 1%, 2% of my portfolio through these ETFs into Bitcoin. They see the
Hmm.
writing on the wall with the fiat system around the world, and I think it's not quite a risk off asset yet and a hedge. I think some people are starting to look at it that way, and that's why it's held up so well. But it is surprising, though. If you look at some of the events that have taken place this year, and if this had happened 4 years ago, we would have seen the
Oh,
price drop like 50-60% easily.
yeah, right, right. I agree, actually. I feel like the market is becoming more immune, so like less volatility, definitely. Some people say it's behaving more like the stock market, which I kind of agree. We're not really seeing those large swings. But yeah, it's interesting to watch what's unfolding, and I'm wondering if Chair Powell will ever lower the rates. I'm thinking by next time he has to do something. I
Most
mean, we're on the brink of World War III.
Yeah, and the job market is really softening. If you kind of dig into the numbers a bit, there's a lot of companies that are laying off. I think partly I think the tariffs are having their impact. I think a lot of companies would like to pass the cost on, but they can't right now with the consumer sentiment. So they're
Mhm.
eating some of that cost, which is going to lead to them reducing headcount. You also have AI is already starting to have its impacts with some of these larger companies cutting headcount. So the poly market odds are showing that September is likely the session we'll see rate cuts.
The
But
first one? Yeah.
yeah, the first one, I think we're still at like a 85% chance, somewhere in that range, of a zero cuts happening in the July session. But September is where a lot of
Mhm.
people are expecting it. Looking
Mhm.
further out, though, we have to remember Jay Powell's term is up in May of 2026, and you better believe Trump's going to put someone in there that does what he wants him to do. I would bet. And there's Scott Bessent is being rumored. I don't know if that'll happen or not, but you better
Right.
believe that next year I think we'll see a lot more rate cuts once Jay Powell's out of there.
Well, and not only that, but I feel almost like this bull market is just being elongated by what's going on. We've got just like turmoil and things happening internationally, which I mean, I kind of feel like some of it is just fluff. Like, I mean, not really fluff. Obviously, stuff is really happening over there, but I think we're kind of making it a big deal because we want it to be a big deal.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, the Fed cut rates by a full percent last year, and it
Mhm.
did not have the impact you would think on longer term debt. The 10 and 30 year have been up. So I don't know that lowering rates is really going to necessarily save the day anyway.
Change anything. There are people who say that it could hurt things, which I don't know how it would, but um, you know, I don't know. Who
I
knows?
I think if it happens in an unexpected way, like if the market's expecting a rate cut in September and he comes in next session's like cutting by a full point, I think
Hmm.
people are gonna like freak out and like think, what does he know that we don't know? So that's how it could be negative in that case. But I don't know. I do believe though that we will likely, and things are obviously changing all the time, but I think it's likely that we see 50 basis points this year if
Hmm.
things go really negative on the job front. And the
Hmm.
Fed is faced with, well, they have their dual mandate, right? They have the price stability being one, getting inflation down. The other is the job market. If they're faced with having to choose one or the other, I think they will choose the job market. At least historically, that's what they've done. So
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Well, I did see a report that wage increases have occurred for like at the highest rates in 60 years, I believe. And so it sounds like there is some maybe movement on the job market front in order to have compensation maybe catch up a little bit with the cost of inflation and the high interest rates. But remember, like, I think it was like back in like 90s, like mid early to mid 90s, interest rates were like at 9-10% back then. So we're still relatively low considering.
Yeah, like I saw that report. I need to look further into it. To me, the more concerning thing is the full time jobs have been declining, and really, even under Biden's last year as president, they revised down like 17 out of 21 job reports and had
Mm-hmm.
overstated like 866,000 jobs added that weren't actually there. And what we're seeing, I think, is a lot of people are getting laid off from full time work and picking up jobs from the gig economy. You know, your Uber and Lyft drivers,
Mm-hmm.
and working multiple part time jobs.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that has very much shielded us from the true state of the job market. I think it's a lot worse than people realize. And you start thinking about the threats to that gig economy. For one, if consumer spending drops and there's less demand for those services, and you have an influx of too many drivers, that kind of kills that job market. But also, robo taxis are coming, and
Mm-hmm.
their Waymos are all over the West Coast. You have Tesla now being tested in Austin, Texas,
Mm-hmm.
and that's going to replace a ton of jobs. Then you start
Right.
looking at where AI is going to hit the job market in other ways,
Mm-hmm.
and a lot of these companies are starting to lay people off just in general. I do think things could take a turn downward in the job market here pretty soon. Force Jerome Powell's hand.
I'm laughing at Poe. I gotta say hi to Poe Man since he's calling me out with his eye rolling. That's payback for you missing the show one day this week, Poe. But yes, I agree. It's been interesting for me because I have not. I'm like re-entering the workforce. I've been out of full time work after my daughter got sick. I tried to kind of hang on and work as long as I could, and it was just hard with her illness. And so then I finally decided to pivot, focus on crypto full time, focus on content creation. And it has been helping, for me to be able to pull in money that way. So, but I'm looking to re-enter as like a full-time almost employee again. It is a hybrid work situation. So that's great. Um, but yeah, I do see that there is a little bit of change in what they were looking to pay before versus now. Like I do see that they are trying to compensate for some of the increases, but I did want to be sure and put on my resume that I know how to use AI, because I feel like that's one of the things where it needs to be there, because there are companies who don't really know how to capitalize on AI yet, and just being somebody to have that on your resume, I feel like is almost going to give you a little bit of an edge over everybody else.
Absolutely. I mean, I think it'll get to the point where you have to use AI in your job, or you're not going to be efficient enough to keep your job. That's that's where things are going. And that's where we'll see with certain jobs like coders, for example. You'll have one person that's able to do 10 people's job, but they're going to have to be able to leverage AI. So I think having that on your resume is going to be really, really important.
I agree. I agree. The whatever we can do to give ourselves an edge, and I think that's the important thing, is like people shouldn't be afraid of AI. I feel like AI is here and it's a useful tool. I've used it myself. It's incredibly useful, time saving. Oh my gosh. I mean, like what AI can do in terms of like video editing sometimes, it saves so much compared to somebody like trying to outsource video editing. Is really, it can be a very high cost. I mean, editing is one of those things where you can do a little and it costs a little, and you could do a ton and add all the bells and whistles and, you know, yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah,
So,
it's going to be it's happening a lot faster than I think a lot of people realize. I think in certain ways
mhm.
AI is being overstated as to what it's capable of doing, but I
But
think in other ways we're
yeah.
like definitely underestimating how much it's going to impact things in certain
I
aspects.
agree. So seeing the Waymo in LA, the protesters light them on fire,
Yeah,
and not just one day, but like multiple days. So it's like the AI is smart, but it's not capable of being intuitive enough to know that like yesterday I had an issue, or this other car in my fleet is having an issue. So I still feel like it's not moving as fast as people think it is. That's for sure. It's moving fast, but it's not taking over the world anytime soon.
Yeah, yeah. It'll. I think the technology will continue to get better. And I think that right now the bigger problem is that there's uncertainty of other drivers on the road.
Mhm.
These autonomous vehicles have to adjust to other people, and have to adjust for uh, protesters or rioters that are setting them on fire. They don't know to plow through people yet. I'm just kidding.
Imagine if the little city scooters could turn themselves on and like drive away from the people trying to chuck it over at the cars.
Yeah.
So switching gears a little bit because you are involved in DPIN, and DPIN real world assets is going to be huge. I feel like, and when you held your space the other day, I wanted to come up as a speaker, but I was in the middle of stuff. So, but I wanted to talk about it because you were kind of I don't want to say airing some grievances, but you were kind of stating some of the downfalls that come with trying to manage like the fleet that you had and the compensation, trying to run it as a business model with an ROI. Um, are you seeing areas where continuing to do DPIN as more of a business could continue to be profitable? Are you looking at ways to maybe pivot since some of the ROIs aren't panning out like you maybe originally thought?
Yeah. So all my businesses I got ROI on pretty early on, like in 2024. So that worked out pretty well. But given where the market conditions are today, there are certain projects. I think there's a point where the token gets to be so low
Hmm.
that it almost makes sense to buy the token versus building out a fleet based on
Hmm.
the earnings.
Right.
Now that can change very quickly. If all of a sudden token prices appreciate, market conditions get better,
Hmm.
then yes, then it makes sense to deploy hardware. And I think we're at this point right now where the market's been beaten down so much that I'm more interested in finding my conviction plays and DCAing into bigger positions in the token itself rather than going through the work of building out businesses on top of them. Um, Now, there are certain projects like Helium, for example, if you all have heard of that, but essentially you can
Hmm.
kind of be your own telecom, set up antennas. I did a lot of that, and I'm not so interested in building out a business where I have to put infrastructure on people's rooftops anymore because
Right.
you start thinking further down the road. You start getting calls from people that are moving and want stuff removed. You have people that are getting
Uh,
roofs replaced, and how annoying that is.
hmm.
Um, but there's still, I think, a really big play on the token aspect for those projects. Yeah, Jesse said it, HNT. They're right now, I think we're seeing, and actually have a space next Tuesday, and this is the topic is why is there such a gap between the fundamentals of these projects and DeepIn and their token prices right now? What's causing that? Because for a lot of them, they are generating a lot of revenue now and they've been building, but the token prices are about where they were during the bear market.
Do you think that's because there are, things that need to be paid back? Like maybe people who put in their investment and are waiting for an ROI on the business and have been waiting on an ROI, or their VCs involved? Like where is the selling on the token coming from?
It's a good question. I was talking to Suburban about that this morning. Yeah, I think sometimes you have investors, early investors, and in a lot of cases, you look at one of the issues I have with some of these projects is that their token unlocks for investors happen too quickly.
Hmm.
A lot of times it's like a 2-year vesting period, and you might as well consider those tokens sold.
Hmm.
And I think right now when you look at the market conditions, people are very risk off in all
Hmm.
markets right now, and I think you're seeing this slow bleed out. And yeah, to your answer, I think some of it probably is investors that are kind of cutting bait and moving to cash to wait to see how things play out here. Um, and I think that's one of the big problems. But I do believe that there will be a bright future ahead for DeepIn. When you look at like the World Economic Forum came out with a report maybe 2 weeks ago. Right now, the total market cap for all DeepIn projects is around $30 billion, and they're projecting by 2028 it's going to be a $3.5 trillion market.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's pretty exponential growth. I think the math is somewhere around like 116x from here in the next 3 years is what their projection is. That doesn't mean it's going to come true, but I do believe we're going to see a lot of growth in the sector for sure.
Right, right. It becomes really messy now because we have tokens, right? And now we have companies that are being listed. So, and we'll talk about that in the show because Coinbase and Circle had quite a rally today. So while crypto is bleeding, we have the shares on the stock exchange rallying, and I think they're up like 6x since they went live. So it's interesting to see, number goes down crypto side, but chart go up on the stock side. And then we start to look at like real world assets and, the tokens that are supplied with it. And I think one of the things that you talked about was, I don't know. I know I'm not going to explain it the right way, but one of the things I talk about here is sometimes companies should have like tokens as rewards, like cash, but not necessarily need their own token or stable coin. Is that how you're feeling more about real world assets since you've been involved in it as an investor?
Yeah, so I think where there's a conversation that's coming up now. I think especially when you have the market get crushed the way it has, you kind of have these moments where people start to call into question a lot of how these projects have been laid out. So I think what most people are considering now is like, okay, yeah, maybe each project had its token to the point that it's built out, and then once enough revenue kicks in, you kind of wean off of that. Having your own token, maybe those become more governance rights, and then participants get paid in USDC once there's enough revenue to make that move.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's interesting. This one thing about this sector is that it hasn't been around long enough
Mm-hmm.
for us to be able to determine, what makes sense when a project gets to 5 years to 10 years out. Once you have, enough revenue where the revenue is exceeding the token emissions, we
Mm-hmm.
don't have the answers to those questions yet because we haven't gotten there yet. I think it's worth having the conversation though, about what these projects should be doing when we get there. And a lot of them probably won't even get there. Let's be real. Like, this is an emerging sector. I think that there are some projects that are doing a lot of really great things.
Mm-hmm.
But, there are also a bunch that, maybe they had a promising idea, they didn't execute well enough, or maybe they made some mistakes along the way. And some of them really never had a fighting chance, in my opinion. They just wanted to, latch onto the deep end narrative altogether.
Mm-hmm. So one of the things that you mentioned, because I got involved with Suburban and ended up working with him on the AutoPie for the car. And one of the things you mentioned was that the users didn't realize that they were going to have to opt in to selling their driving data. They thought it would just be automatic. How did that kind of become a little problematic? And how do you think that that could kind of rectify itself in the future?
Yeah. It's, this, I talked about this on a space with Havelo as a project in the deep end space. And they brought up this question about how projects can need to execute. And in a lot
Mm-hmm.
of cases, you have a team that's really, really smart on the infrastructure side and like total geeks on that and like really understand it inside and out, but they have no idea on the business aspect.
Right.
And in certain cases, you have people that are really, really good on the business aspect, but don't understand, how to actually build out the network. And you really have to have both sides of it with these projects.
Mm-hmm.
And communication is key. And I think in Demo's case, in my opinion, it's been a miss on communication. You have a lot of people that are moving into these deep end projects that, they're used to buying hardware, deploying hardware, earning tokens, and getting an ROI. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
In the case of Demo, that was part of the process. But
Mm-hmm.
as opposed to a lot of these projects that are then going and like taking that data and going and finding consumers for it, there is another piece to this where people that were connected had to opt into sharing their data
Right.
in order for the protocol to drive revenue. And I think that's like the missing piece. And I think the silver lining in this change that Demo has brought
Mm-hmm.
forth over the last couple of weeks that we've realized there is a big miss here.
Right.
Um, a lot of people thought their data was just automatically being shared, and then they're like, didn't have to do anything. Um, sorry, yeah.
Yeah, no, that I agree. I was baffled to hear that, and that's why I was like, I need you on the show. Come talk about what's going on, because these are things like, that nobody saw or foresaw, and that, we can't predict the future, and maybe it's just a developmental oversight whenever the product is being built out, that perhaps it wasn't very clear. Now, I have the app on my phone, but it
Mhm.
was very bare bones. And I don't know, because I was under a host, maybe I got a stripped down version of the app, I think, which was fine. But I couldn't see where I would need to opt into anything. And maybe I could if I was self hosting. Is that maybe where I would have seen that?
Yeah, well,
They probably didn't
again,
even have it somewhere where it was easy to find, though.
no, and that's exactly the issue. I mean, actually, it's funny. About a month ago, I reached out to their team because I've interviewed their founders on my channel and reached out to them. And on their dashboard, I called it out. They
Mhm,
have vehicles being added, they have apps being built, but no one's connecting to them. And
mhm,
so I suggested to them that they connect me with some of the app developers. I was like, I'm happy to bring them on the channel, interview them, explain the utility behind it, and how these people in the community can connect to these apps, because
mhm.
that's the big problem right now for you guys. Um, and so we've been talking about that, and this decision that came out, basically what they decided to do, with your AutoPie, for example, you have
Mhm.
2 years of connectivity built in because they connect through LTE, through cell networks,
Right.
and there's a cost there. And the problem is, after the 2 years, Demo has been paying it and continue to pay that connectivity cost, but it's starting to become a major expense for them because there's 182,000 vehicles in the network, and they're covering the cost for all of those vehicles, and they're likely, I would imagine, bleeding $1 million plus in cash flow a month connecting these
Right.
vehicles. And so their whole thing is, okay, once you get past your connectivity that's built into your product, the community members need to start paying for that.
Mhm.
And a lot of people were like, just like you said, hey, I'm looking at the app. There's not really anything that justifies me spending a monthly fee to connect. Why would I do that?
Right, right, right. Yeah, and I think for me, one of the things that I definitely see a need for DPIN, and there are use cases. Hive Mapper is a great utility case of what DPINs could be and what real world assets can be. And I think there's many more to come, and it's probably mostly through trial and error. But I mean, I don't think when the internet started, anybody thought about selling data as being one of the byproducts of using the internet. And so, I feel like it's just one of those things where it's immature, and we haven't really fully captured the scope of it yet. But one of the things that scares me about DPIN products is just that it's collecting your data essentially. And I thought about that at a certain point. I'm like, is this like scoring me as a driver? Is this going to go tell my insurance agency, like, Julie loves to speed, and whenever she, XYZ or whatever, then it's going to tell them. And then all of a sudden, I might be being paid through the product, but then my insurance all of a sudden randomly goes up $100 a month. So
I
that's the scary part of it, right?
Yeah, I hear you. I think that's a big reason why they automatically opted people out, and then people had to decide to opt in to sharing their data. I mean, one of
Ah,
the things we need to realize is, like, our data in all aspects of our life has been monetized for
being
a long
shared
time.
anyway. Right.
It
That's how I
is.
felt. I was like, I'd rather take control and sell it myself.
Yeah,
I
and
knew
not
it
only
going in.
that's I think that's kind of the deal, is like people's data is being scraped anyway. And in the case of Demo, a lot of cars now being built, they're all smart and connected, so
Right.
that data is going to be scraped regardless. What my suggestion to Demo, and I think if they change their route on this, and I believe, I mean, we're in discussions, we'll see what they come out with, but my idea is like give people an automatic opt in. They don't have to go to each individual app and opt in. Most people thought they were sharing their data anyway.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And then as long as they opt in,
Mhm.
let that a percentage of that revenue that's generated go to paying for their connectivity. And if you can cover connectivity by sharing your data, I think you can keep this thing rolling without having a major reset. But I think the second anyone's going to have to pay out their, pull out their credit card and start paying monthly, I think they're going to lose a lot of people. So we'll see what they come out with here.
Yeah, and I'm sure that there are helium mobile options that could potentially daisy chain into that, and you could be double dipping and having your dpen use the cellular of the helium, and you're getting helium rewards and you're getting the other demo rewards. I don't know, that's just my thinking. But also, like, even if I didn't go that route, like, could I not connect it to like my cell phone hotspot, because I never leave my house without my cell phone? So I'm could easily just run a hotspot there and just allow the user to decide what to connect to.
Yeah, yeah. To your point about helium, I mean, Demo's gonna be making some announcements here pretty soon, so I wouldn't be surprised if helium might be part of one of those announcements. We'll see. Um, but yeah, I mean, look, I think that they can pivot. A lot of businesses pivot over time, but I think it's really important for them to execute here and do it in a way that they can win back the community. Because if they don't, um, they're going to have to like really be precise with their execution moving forward if they want to keep things going, in my
Yeah.
opinion.
Yeah. Yeah. Anyway, I thought that was all super interesting stuff. So, what else? Do you have any other thoughts? Anything else you want to add on the deep end subject before we roll into the rest of the show?
Yeah, you know what? I want to highlight three projects that haven't had their token launches yet that should
Okay.
be on people's radar. How about that?
Yeah, let's do it.
Um, One is called 375 AI.
Mm-hmm.
Their founder, Harry Dewhurst, is in his late 30s, but he was on Forbes 30 under 30. He was the CEO of Linksys for 2 years. He sold his first business that he co-founded for like $380 million or something. Guy is like
Mm.
super sharp. They have an exclusive partnership with Outfront Media, who owns 50,000 billboards across the U.S. in high traffic areas.
Mm-hmm.
And they're essentially setting up, talk about data collection, they're essentially setting up 6 cameras in all of these billboards with NVIDIA chips. So they're processing the data at the edge, and they're
Yep.
selling it to hedge funds for public service, et cetera. So
Wow.
I think that's a project that has some serious legs that has not had their token launch yet, but it'll be coming in Q3. So again, 375 AI. Another one's Daba Network.
Oh, wow. Okay.
They're building out infrastructure for Wi-Fi in India. And essentially, India has 1.4 billion people. Only it's like 5% has Wi-Fi. And most have been using cellular network. So they're basically building out Wi-Fi in conjunction with the Indian government across India. And I think there's a big opportunity there.
Mm-hmm.
And I know Joe is in the comments down here.
Yeah.
Joe's just a big hater on all deep in, but it's okay.
I can see that. Yes. I can
He
see
loves
that. That's
trolling.
okay.
He loves
It's
trolling.
okay.
And so that one's interesting. That one you actually don't have to deploy yourself.
Mm.
They are deploying for you across India, so you can just get
Oh.
ownership in hotspots. So that one's pretty cool.
Oh,
And
neat.
then the other one is about powering AI, and that's Exhibits. So they brought a lot of people over from the Web2 space that know how to build out really big data centers that have NVIDIA GPUs built out.
Mhm.
So they have these data centers all over the world with
Mm.
in some cases thousands of GPUs.
Wow.
They're powering AI. They go head to head with like the likes of AWS and Google and some of these larger centralized entities, and they're tokenizing it. So that's another one whose
Wow.
token is coming, but that one's
And
gonna
what
be
was that?
massive.
Was Daba? That was Daba, you said? Or
Exhibits,
oh, that's
Exhibits. So
okay.
Exhibits, Daba, and 375 AI are three that
Wow.
tokens haven't launched but are coming pretty soon.
Interesting. Good stuff. Honestly, I don't think the market's going to be down too long. Like I don't know why I don't. I just kind of I guess yesterday I played this little clip of George H.W. doing his weapons of mass destruction speech. Let's see here. I'll play it here. It just reminded me of what we're going through right now, 100%.
I take the threat very seriously. I take the fact that he develops weapons of mass destruction very seriously. We'll remind them that history has called us into action, that we love freedom, that we'll be deliberate.
It's like the same thing. He talks about the nuclear program. They can't have nuclear weapons, and I'm like, this is kind of the same stuff that's always been going on. So I don't know. I'm not gonna fall into all the all the conspiracies.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's we've seen a lot of people get washed out. We've seen the alts just bleed really since January,
Hmm.
and I think it's always the moment that everyone has turned
Least
negative on the
expecting.
markets.
I know.
It's when things change. So I agree with you. I think it's just a matter of time before things flip the other direction.
It was a little scary when I opened my ETH wallet this morning. I'm not gonna lie, my ETH wallet's usually pretty stable. Like I expect fluctuations in certain wallets significantly, like especially Solana. But man, to wake up and the ETH wallet down so much, I was like, oh, this hurts a little bit. But I don't think we're at the end of the bull market. I don't even think we've had a bull market. So I can only think that this is just behaving much differently than everyone expects. So
I agree. Just don't post your wallet balances unless you want to end up in someone's basement. Um,
I'm gonna be the one that they let go because it's so low. I can't make the payout.
how funny is that? I was like, oh man, that is crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's apparently they had posted some like fake balances. There's so many people post fake P&Ls on
They
X.
do. They really, really do. And I had to learn the hard way to not, there's so much that people do on social media now. And now that I'm a content creator, especially, some of the people I've met in real life, they're literally putting on personas and, or they're just completely different in real life. And so, a lot of what you see is just it's fake.
I agree. Let me ask you this, and don't be creepy, Joe. Let me let me ask you this. Do you think the 4-year market cycle is over? Do you think we'll continue seeing that, or you think?
I just thought Joe's comment. That's great. um, yeah, I do kind of feel like the 4-year cycle. I think we maybe broke the pattern. Like we thought we had it figured out, but I do think that we're just starting to see too much money flowing in, too many institutions, corporations, different countries. Like I don't see it being the same anymore because we kind of had these large ebbs and flows with so much uncertainty. And I don't know that that's the case this time, unless the only thing I can see happening really is, I mean, unless there's like a major economic downturn overall, then of course things are going to really pull back. Or if perhaps maybe the next leadership change has just a real negative view of crypto and they decide to go after it. That's the only thing I can see happening. So,
Yeah, that's definitely a threat. I mean, this market cycle started a little early with the Bitcoin ETFs. It's been institutionally led. I think that's why we haven't seen altcoins really run.
mhm.
So I think we'll see less and less volatility as the market cap gets larger, as we see more long-term holders come in. But I wouldn't be surprised to continue seeing volatility around the 4-year market cycle. I think it'll just become less of a driver in the market. But I think it'll still exist.
I
Um,
agree.
and
Um,
then, the Stablecoin Act, the Solana spot ETFs, I think those are two catalysts coming up that could push a lot of new money into the space.
I don't feel like the ETFs are going to do much to the price though, do you?
I I do. I mean, yeah, Ethereum's ETF hasn't performed as well as Bitcoin's by like not even close, night and day.
Right,
But
right. That's what I'm saying.
we started to see flows though into the Ethereum ETFs. Um, and then I think the Solana ETF though, I think there's a lot of entities, especially as we have more clarity as stablecoin bill passes, and
Mhm.
some of these institutions and people can feel comfortable putting money in crypto. I think the Solana ETF, I do believe, could be a driver because there's a lot of degens still holding on to Solana, and I think we
There
could see some
are.
of those profits flow into other alts potentially.
But it just watching the outflows on Solana though, I just don't know how people can comfortably hold that long term. I don't know. I mean, I do think Solana is more like a swing trade almost because it does go way up and way down, and it does capture market share and market attention, but it doesn't seem like a lot really holds on there. And then when you see coins that pop up out of nowhere, they do really well, they bond fast, and then like 2 days later they're being listed on some major exchange. It just feels so sus to me that there's like insiders who are driving all of that, because I'm a holder of some coins that are still fighting to get listed on exchanges that have great tokenomics. The distribution is great. There's no insiders whatsoever, and they can't get listed.
Yeah.
And so it almost feels like, I don't know. But there's really cool stuff being built on Solana. Like I do think what's being built on Solana is much cooler than any other chain. I mean, there's cool stuff being built on Cardano. I think Cardano just doesn't get the respect for what they're building.
Yeah.
So.
And you have their founders selling tokens to buy Bitcoin. You see that? I was like, how do you think about that? I was like, I don't know if it's
That he did get a lot of grief for that, but his point is, with all of the attention being on Bitcoin and the scarcity of Bitcoin, they can buy that and it goes into the treasury, and then rather than deplete the reserves of the treasury, and look, I don't think it's a knock on Cardano at all. I think it's him being very aware of where the focus is. And,
yeah.
there's only ever going to be 21 million Bitcoin. So you might as well go grab a slice while you can.
It's valid. I mean, we're seeing companies that are traded on the S&P do the same thing. So it's like,
Yeah. Yeah. Oh my gosh, yes. When I interviewed the MetaPlanet CEO Simon Jerovich, oh my gosh, I don't get nervous to interview people, and I was like literally nervous to talk to him. I think just because I have covered MetaPlanet on the channel so many times and talking about them taking their Michael Saylor type strategy approach, and oh my gosh, being able to chat with him just had me so. I was like. It was like the most nervous I've ever been for an interview, but it turned out really good. I need to finish the edits on it.
You weren't nervous to have me on? I'm just kidding.
I'm trembling right now.
I was nervous. I'm nervous to have Joe on talking about doing a rage stream on my channel. What is that?
You're nervous to have. I would probably be nervous to have Joe on. Joe, we're gonna have you on a joint stream. It'll be fun. All right, let me pull up some charts. We'll get into it. Take a look at some stuff and talk about some news. Get like my 30-second drink of water. All right, here we are looking at Bitcoin, you guys. We had a nice little sell off, as you can see. I actually zoomed out here. So I'm on the 1 hour right now. I was zoomed in a little bit earlier today. So since we've had this sell off, I was a little scared when we saw 103. And that was when I started to see the estimations that if we drop down a little more, we might potentially go down to 97,000. Since then, we've kind of been trending a little sideways at 104. Went all the way down to 104 200. We're back up to 104.9 right now, so it's looking a little better. It's looking a little better. Oops. I don't want that. Okay. Ethereum, we have a nice little pop up here. Look at this nice little green candle that we have. But it also had a nice little sell off along with everything else. It is currently trading at 25.30. And Solana, it also looking quite similar, but it has had a nice little sell off. It's at 147. I feel like all of this stuff, considering Chainlink at 13, still sitting relatively good. I think it's more the alts and our memes that have bled off so significantly. Litecoin, it's at $85, down just slightly, and Dogecoin, it's up from 16 because it was all the way down to 16. It's at 17 cents now. All right. Now the one I really love to see, is my crypto bubbles. I love the crypto bubbles charts. So we'll pull this puppy up here. All right. As you can see, we're actually starting to see a little bit of green again. So I think we're going to see a tad recovery here this afternoon, you guys. And don't forget, markets are closed. Yes, tomorrow. Markets are closed yesterday. Lord help me. Markets are closed tomorrow. So, but Pepe was down. This was a sea of red just a little bit ago. So we're starting to see a little bit of green come back here. Let's go over to here because this is where we saw some major, everything on this when I first pulled these bubbles up was down 10 to 20%. So if you have coins that have been on your radar in here, like me, I'm always telling you guys to buy dog. Excellent price to buy dog. 0.003. So it's easy to X back to where we were all-time high. But I also know that we're going to have a lot of major listings on that. Hopefully soon. Do you have any dog? Do you have any dog, Brad?
I don't own any dog. I need to get so. I know you've been talking about it. I need to get on that. I need to get on that train. By the way, I think we should take credit for this because I'm looking at the day, week, month, but the hour is all green. I think we did it.
We did it. We were pushing the positive vibes, family. And I also have my little friend here, my little Hoba. He's so cute. He shitted himself. He's so cute. Isn't he so cute? You guys, so I have an extra one of these to give away. And I literally told everybody on the channel, okay, when this show is over, go write Hoba in the comments. You guys, nobody listened and followed instructions. So, Jesse, I see you wrote Hoba, and Sing, you wrote Hoba during the show. So I will take both of you as number 1 and 2 in on the Hoba drawing to try and win Hoba. But if you want Hoba, I'm giving away this cute little Hoba doll. And I have a little Hoba mask so you can match your Hoba doll. And I'm going to give away $25 in Hoba token, which from all-time high, it's like 10x. So I'm going to give you $25. That could 10x. That is a win. So if you want Hoba, put Hoba. Not here, not in the live stream. Do it when it's over, though, because then I can see it. Because once I end the show, all your comments disappear. But I got you, Jesse, and I got you. Sing. I don't even know. Are the Sing fams in here? I saw one of them. B is in here. B, I see you. I saw you. You're still here.
We got Boba. We've got Hoba.
I know. This is Hoba. It's a honey badger, and he does not care. He does not care if you like him or not. He shitted. He's so cute. I freaking love him. The memes. Okay, if you want a community that has good positive vibes, they're like a lot of the Sproto people, the Harry Potter, Sonic, Obama, Tandy New. They are all Hobas also, so the Hoba badgers. But the art is so good. The memes are so great. So I went into, once I was gifted some of the coin from Dyla, who I work with, I looked up all their memes, downloaded them, and I was like, oh my gosh, this art is amazing. So then every day I was just Hoba, and I was pumping it. And over the course of like 3 or 4 months of me just continually posting that coin, it went all the way up to like 70 cents. And I sold a little bit of it when it hit the top, but I still have some. I'm gonna give some away if you guys want to enter that. But you gotta be subscribed to me because I'm not giving away stuff to people that aren't subscribed on my YouTube because I need to hit 1,000 subscribers, you guys. Need to hit 1,000 subscribers. Oh, I'm hungry. My tummy was growling. All right, I've got some news for us to get into. I don't know why I'm so goofy today, you guys. I'm like really excited. I'm having a good day though. I had a good day. My little job interview went well, and I cried. Cries at a job interview. Please hire me. Oh, so desperate. Anyway, this is off of the Goxty News Network page. Iranian exchange NobitX hacked for 81 million by pro-Israeli hacker group. So NobitX, Iranian's largest cryptocurrency exchange, experienced a major security compromise, losing approximately 81 million on digital assets across the Tron network and EVM compatible blockchains. The hack, initially reported by blockchain investigator Zach XBT, used vanity addresses with provocative names to steal funds from Nobit's hot wallets. The initial 49 million was stolen from a single location labeled as terrorists. The second one just said it was F dead. They used it for more thefts. So let's see here. Predatory Sparrow, a pro-Israeli hacker group, claimed the attack, presenting the breach as punishment for Nobit's the alleged sanctions, invasion, and terrorist financing. The organization threatened to reveal the exchange source code and internal files, warning that users should remove their remaining assets. NobitX, it confirmed the hack. They claimed that not only were hot wallets compromised, similarly, they were offering full reimbursements through their insurance fund and resources. Security experts believe the hack resulted from a significant flaw in access controls, which allowed hackers to empty hot wallets, access multiple blockchains. Notably, the stolen cash has yet to be transferred. The attack is regarded as politically motivated act rather than a conventional financial theft. The intrusion comes amid heightened conflicts with Israel and Iran. So, what do you think about this? Because I feel like we're starting to see more centralized exchanges become targets.
Don't leave money on exchanges. Seriously.
Right.
I mean, we've seen this. They will try to attract you with like their APYs and all that, but we saw what happened in the last market cycle. And one of the beautiful things about crypto is that you can self-custody, and I think it's really important to do so. I think it's like same with like leaving passwords on centralized servers. We're going to see more and more of this stuff happen, and unfortunately, a lot of these centralized entities like to keep things all in one, like Bybit. They had like everything in like one wallet, which is crazy.
Easy to drain. Yeah, you'd think that they would make it a little more complex. Like FTX, I think, had it all sprinkled everywhere.
yeah, to a lot lot of politicians.
Well, that too. Yeah,
they certainly did sprinkle it everywhere.
Great. That's great.
But yeah, like self-custody is key, and I think it's only going to become more and more important. But don't tell everyone about your self-custody either.
Right, exactly, 100%. All right, so moving on here from CNBC, shares of Coinbase and Circle surged after the stable coin bill passes Senate. So this here says shares of Circle and Coinbase rallied on Wednesday as Wall Street cheered the Senate's passage of the Genius Act, which would establish a federal framework for the U.S. dollar-pegged stablecoins. Circle, the issuer of the USDC stablecoin, rose 22% following the passage of the bill late Tuesday. It's a continuation of a remarkable run for Circle stock since the company held its stock market debut on June 5th. The shares are trading at about $180, up almost six-fold from their $31 IPO price. So, the accredited investors are up bigly, but not the rest of us. But I do feel like this is kind of what we're seeing, that, we're going to see people who maybe are less aware of crypto might just default to buying the stock for the crypto companies. I don't know. That's kind of where I see some of this money going.
Yeah. I mean, you're seeing more and more of these companies create Bitcoin treasuries. You're starting to see Ethereum and Solana treasuries now. Like Franklin Templeton came out and said that they believe Solana strategic reserves for these different companies makes sense. This Circle IPO, because it IPO'd at $31. It's pretty remarkable what it's done. But I saw a report earlier today that Arthur Hayes came out and said that he thinks that a lot of these are overvalued now. So we'll see what happens there.
So kind of like the ICO era, there might be an IPO style pop on some of these that all people are going to rush in, but then maybe find they all rush out just as quickly.
Potentially. I think with a lot of this is the news of the stablecoin bill being passed. So I think we're seeing that reaction, but I wouldn't be surprised to see some corrections in some of these. I mean, it's done a 6-7x since its IPO like 3 weeks ago. That's absolutely crazy. Now, it's something I thought was undervalued anyway. William and I have talked about, William, who just commented, we've talked about before the IPO that it was definitely, we thought, undervalued. We felt it was, but we'll see. The thing that stablecoin bill is going to serve a purpose for that a lot of people aren't talking about. Scott Bessent said this. It's going to protect the U.S. dollar's dominance.
Absolutely.
I think buying our longer term debt that we need to finance, but also just putting the U.S. dollar in that as the dominant player when it comes to stable coins on chain. I think it's going to be a big play.
Absolutely. All right. We got one more article here, and this one was just interesting, so I wanted to talk about it. Healthcare company onboards Trump crypto advisor and buys 20 million Bitcoin. The initial purchase of more than 187 BTC was part of a larger strategy to substantially increase the Bitcoin holdings. So, the individual who helped orange pill the U.S. Donald Trump has become part of the advisory team for the healthcare company establishing a Bitcoin reserve strategy. On Wednesday, notice Hong Kong and U.S. headquartered healthcare companies Prenetics said it would follow the example set by Strategy and invest $20 million into Bitcoin. According to the company, it secured roughly 187 BTC at an average price of 106,000 using Kraken to custody the account. Prenetics plans to substantially increase Bitcoin's holding and aims to become one of the largest healthcare corporate Bitcoin holders globally, the announcement said. So, and it goes on, but I really feel like this is the tip of the iceberg into everybody rushing into Bitcoin overall. What are your thoughts on that? Because I feel like once everyone realizes and the short squeeze comes, I think everything is just going to rocket up with it. I don't think we stay here.
Yeah, we're seeing exchange balances at all-time lows for Bitcoin. I think the supply squeeze is coming. It also makes you wonder, because we're seeing some of these companies now having to report their holdings. Makes me wonder how much of the Bitcoin ETF inflows have been from institutional, like actual companies versus people with their investment portfolios.
Right.
So I do believe we will see more and more companies hold Bitcoin, especially if they're sitting on cash. You realize that cash is going to continue getting devalued. I mean, that's the only way to continue moving forward for these central banks. I think more and more will start to buy Bitcoin are going to want to have some sort of exposure to it. And I think we're just getting started here. So.
Absolutely. Yeah. And so, okay, now on to some conspiracy theory. Did you hear the potential theory that Iran has the largest Bitcoin mining operation in the world, and that's more what this is over?
I haven't, but I will say they joined this. People, I don't think a lot of people know this, but maybe they do. But they joined BRICS Plus in January of 24. So that's Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. And there are reports that have been going around in the mainstream media. It's very much been under the radar. People haven't talked about it much, but Russia was investing in Bitcoin mining in all of these BRICS Plus countries around the world. So I would not be at all surprised if Iran has Bitcoin mining happening, and
Mhm.
taking place. Now, I don't know about this war necessarily being about
Being
Bitcoin
a
mining.
Bitcoin.
I think that might be us in our crypto echo chamber saying that, but I wouldn't be surprised if they are mining Bitcoin. In fact, I bet they probably are.
Well, they have their crypto exchange just got hacked, so they obviously have exposure to it. Now, what's really interesting, I like watching a lot of YouTube videos, and I was watching an Australian gentleman who was going to Iran to travel. And he was talking about how like Visa, MasterCard, all of like the major banking institutions, they don't work over there. So it's actually kind of surprising to me to hear that they have a centralized exchange, and that they are pro crypto. I guess I didn't realize that. And the other thing is too is watching Iran in the video. It's a beautiful country, and I don't think I realized it's so pro- it's more like the UAE than I realized. It's very progressive in terms of like the architecture and things like that. So I don't know. I was very surprised.
Yeah, and I think they have like 90 million people, like population too, which is a lot larger than I had realized as
Yeah,
well. Um,
it's definitely a huge country, especially compared to Israel.
yeah,
So yeah,
yeah, it's pretty wild. So I don't know. It's this whole deal is obviously has been scaring markets. I think if you look at poly market odds, there's now a 50% likelihood of a new nuclear deal being worked out. But whether or not that's what happens, or the U.S. military sends in their B-52 or their bombers that are going
Mhm.
to, because they have the enrichment facilities like under this mountain, so that's what they're
Right.
talking about is bombing that. So one way or another, it's going to get sorted out. And I think
Yeah.
markets are already starting to kind of figure that that's going to happen sooner than later.
Yeah. Yeah, and it seems like a lot of it is playing out in real time via tweets from Donald Trump over, what's happening next. I think they mentioned Iran reached out and they wanted to meet with Donald Trump. One report said they wanted to come to the White House, which I was like, what? Um, but who knows? It's literally like a minute by minute thing, and I feel like we're gonna wake up and it's all gonna be over. And then if you did not get in at these low prices on Bitcoin, it's gonna be crazy. So
Isn't that wild to say, like Bitcoin, like we're talking about low price, it's still $103,000. I
it's
mean,
100. Yeah.
it was like 2 months ago, we were
Uh,
sitting at like 78,000 and everyone's freaking out. I mean,
do you remember how long we were stuck at like 69,000? We like hit 69,000 like probably 25 times. It was like, oh, we're back. We're back. We're
yeah,
back. So yeah, I feel like we're really knocking on the door to hit this next leg up. And it could be any minute.
yeah.
So
And it'll be price discovery. I mean, once we break through resistance, I mean, who knows where this can go? But with that supply squeeze, William said it, the melt up is coming. I agree. It's going to get wild. And I don't know what price it's going to have to hit for retail to start taking notice. Um,
they don't even flinch right now.
they don't
They
know.
don't even know.
They don't know. If you went down the street and asked people what price they thought Bitcoin is at, they'd probably be like, I don't know, $1,000. Like people
Right.
have no
10,000.
idea.
Yeah. Right. Yeah, they
Um,
really have none.
Once we hit like $150,000, I think, I don't know what that magic number is for people to start getting interested again, but it's going to happen.
Yeah. We're on the brink of it. All right, we went a little bit over today, but thank you for jumping on with me last minute because I needed to catch up with you from Vegas, and I didn't even get to see you enough while I was there.
I
So,
know. I know. We'll have to do it at the
are you
next
are
one
you gonna do Rare Evo maybe in August?
in August.
Yeah, that's the
I'll
next
have
one
to
I'm
look. I've
doing.
got a lot of
Yeah.
travel planned in August, but
Yeah.
if I can get out there, yeah, we'll definitely have to hang more.
Perfect. Yeah. Well, thank you for being here. And I'll have you back on the show soon. So,
I
but if
appreciate
you
it.
are new here, please smash a like, subscribe, follow our friend Bradley. He comes and drops all things deep in. He's just our resident guest. We love him. So, hope to see you all back tomorrow at 1 o'clock Pacific time. Thanks for being here. Bye.